Trigonometry. What is it? Why do we do it and how do we do it? Well, in this set of videos, I'm going to talk you through trigonometry, how to do it, and all the calculations. Trigonometry is a branch of maths that uses the ratios between the sides of a right-angled triangle. We use it to find unknown dimensions of the sides and the angles of those right-angled triangles. The concepts of trig have assisted explorers in tracking the stars, air, sea navigation, in the construction and the design of buildings, of bridges, and the communication of sound and light waves. Real-life applications of trig are found everywhere. While you think you may only ever do it in the classroom, that's not true. For example, you might be at the top of a lighthouse and you want to see how far a boat is out at sea. Trigonometry will help us with that. But first, let's go back to basics. Let's start with the right-angled triangle and labelling the sides. We need to label the sides of a right-angled triangle in order to apply our trigonometric functions, which we'll look at a bit later. Lesson 1, labelling the sides of a right-angled triangle. Let's start with this right-angled triangle. We know it's a right angle because we have a square in the bottom left-hand corner. The side directly opposite the right angle we know is called the hypotenuse, so we'll label that hypotenuse. Now, the triangle has two remaining angles, so let's call the top angle alpha. We use alpha, which is a Greek letter of the alphabet. Normally we use Greek letters to define the angles. The side directly opposite angle alpha we call the opposite side. So now we have the hypotenuse, we have the opposite side, which leaves one side left, and we call that the adjacent side. Adjacent meaning next to. But hang on, what if my angle was labelled in the bottom right-hand corner? Well, let's label that beta. We know the hypotenuse is still the hypotenuse because it's still opposite the right angle, but the side opposite beta is now called the opposite side. Again, leaving the remaining side the adjacent side. They're your three sides of the right-angled triangle, the hypotenuse, the opposite, and the adjacent. It's really important to label your triangle correctly because in order to do trigonometry and to do the calculations, you need to know the correct sides. Let's try a few examples together now that we know how to label the sides of a right-angled triangle. Let's start with the first example. Again, we'll put alpha in the top left-hand corner, but keep in mind my triangle can be rotated, so now the right angle is in the top right-hand side. First thing we might want to do is label the hypotenuse. Remember, the hypotenuse is directly opposite the right angle. In relation to my angle alpha, the side opposite is, of course, correct, the opposite side, leaving the remaining side as the adjacent side. But what if my angle was down the bottom? Well, again, let's call this beta. That's right, directly opposite beta is opposite. The hypotenuse is opposite the right angle, meaning the remaining side is the adjacent side. Once you've labelled your sides of your right-angled triangle, trigonometry becomes so easy, but it's really, really important to get those sides labelled correctly. Next lesson, we will look at how we use these sides that we have labelled in trig calculations. Stay tuned. Subscribe. No.